Browns back at practice today on a Wednesday, but of course, the big news is Deshaun Watson is out for the season, undergoing surgery on his right throwing shoulder. He injured it during the Baltimore game, played the last 2.5 quarters with the injury, Mary Kay. But I don't think there's any other way to describe this news today as other than shocking.
It really is shocking. I mean, it's blockbuster news. We have been on pods over the last couple of days talking about the fact that the Browns have a legitimate chance this year finally to go to the Super Bowl. Their starting quarterback was back. He came back in that Ravens game and went 14 for 14 in the second half. It was his signature game. He established himself as the elite quarterback that he is, and the future looked so incredibly bright for the Browns this season. And now, of course, it's all up in the air. Nobody knows how this is going to go, but at least for right now, they are starting rookie quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson against the Steelers on Sunday.
Yeah, Ashley, like I said, just shocking was that's what I felt when I first saw it. I know that's what you felt when you first saw the news that Deshaun Watson is done for the year.
It seems like it's also what Deshaun Watson felt. You know, I think when he talked to us today, which I guess it's a positive that he talked to us at least, right? I think a lot of guys would not in that same position have gone out of their way to do a media scrum the same day that it's announced that their season is over. But he said he was kind of in disbelief when he heard the news. You could see it on his face. It took him like 10 seconds to compose himself enough to be able to answer one of the first questions he got asked about his season ending. And I mean, I think you saw it in his body language and his face and how upset he was. But I think this comes as a shock to everyone, not just fans and us, but even the people inside the building. Other teammates like Cedric Tillman said no idea he was even playing that hurt in that game.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Of course, Mary Kay, as you mentioned, he is going to be the starter. The first time he started, it was on about 2 hours' notice. It was against Baltimore. It didn't go well. So the confidence here in Dorian really stems from this idea that if he has a whole week to prepare, he can be better than he was against the Ravens.
Yeah, that's the goal. And, you know, they will go out and they will get a third quarterback, but certainly not in time to start this game. And it really seems like they want to give DTR the second chance to see what he can really do. I think they're hoping they can, just strike lightning in a bottle the way the 49ers did with Brock Purdy or something like that, that he can go out there and keep this train rolling along and get them to the playoffs, which is, the track that they're on right now. So Dorian, I talked to him 2 weeks ago, and he said that he feels he'll be night and day different from when we saw him against the Baltimore Ravens, when, as you mentioned, he only had 2.5 hours notice to get thrown into the fire, threw 3 interceptions, really struggled. We know those Steelers are going to be coming after him.
Yeah, and Ashley, look, it was probably a little too much to judge him based on his preseason success, but it's also probably too much to make a sweeping conclusion based off what we saw against Baltimore. He does deserve this opportunity.
Right. I mean, I think it's an old football adage, but you're never as good as your best moment and you're never as bad as your worst moment. And I think they are trying at least to apply that here. And I think eventually, because they knew in the long term they want DTR to be their backup quarterback, you have to give him another chance at some point. And I know some people might balk at that coming in a big division game against the Steelers, but I also think it's worth noting, like, PJ Walker does turn the ball over quite a bit, and this is not a team that you want to be turning the ball over against either.
Now, let's talk about this. The Browns are 6-3. They are as close to the number 1 seed in the AFC as they are to being out of the playoff picture. They play the Steelers on Sunday. This defense, Mary Kay, is legitimate. So I know a lot of people might be feeling like the season's over, but is the season actually over?
No, it's really not. I mean, I've seen other teams in the NFL get to the Super Bowl on the strength of a dominant defense. And you know what? Why not here? It could happen. I mean, we watched the Baltimore Ravens go to the Super Bowl when Trent Dilfer was their quarterback on the strength of a very dominant defense. And I think that's what could happen here. These guys really do believe that they are the best defense in the NFL, in the world, the boombox toting defense of these Cleveland Browns. They feel they can carry this team as long as, and we all know this, as long as the quarterback just doesn't throw the ball too much to the other team, they'll have a chance.
Well, and we don't even need to go back that far because, Ashley, we talked to Rodney McLeod today, and he, of course, was part of that Eagles team that lost Carson Wentz in December. He was having an MVP caliber season. They recalibrated quickly. They used their bye week before the playoffs to kind of get everybody back in line. line, and they ended up going on and winning the Super Bowl. So there is an even more recent example of a team dealing with something like this and doing what the Browns want to try to do.
Yeah, the 2017 Eagles are the prime example, and Rodney McLeod was on the team, and of course, who else was with that team but Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz? That was his defense, and I think it is helpful when you have people in the building who have gone through something similar and have had success doing it. Again, I think Rodney McLeod, for example, is a guy who, since he got here, his words and opinions have had value internally, especially amongst the other players. I talked to a number of defensive players today. They kind of talked about, well, we're already locked in. It's about doing our jobs. But Martin Emerson admitted, too, there's maybe a different sense of ownership for how this season is going to go on that side of the ball now.
Rodney said that Kevin put 1-0 up on the board today. So he's trying to get this team refocused, trying to get this team on track as they deal with the loss of their starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson. We'll have full coverage of it all throughout the day at cleveland.com/Browns.